What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on the Get Up, they're going to be talking about how the Toronto Raptors beat the Orlando Magic by 29 points, and also going to touch on the performance of Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard. So let's see what they have to say about that.
He averaged 1.8 points per direct drive. That is the second most by any player in a postseason game over the last 5 years. And so let's come out and talk about this at the table here. RJ, as you watch Kawhi Leonard, what was the first thought going through your mind last night after Toronto in a game they desperately needed bounce back big?
How efficient he was. He was so efficient and so direct in everything he did. But it wasn't just Kawhi. It was the entire Raptor team. And that's what I like. When we talked about this, that there are certain teams that have another gear. Orlando came out and hit first. The Nets came out and hit first. But all of a sudden, when you see that second gear that Kawhi Leonard has and no one on Orlando has, that's why you know that they're going to be fine and they're going to be safe.
Look, to me,
so that doesn't necessarily mean that the Toronto Raptors are going to be okay. Just because Kawhi Leonard hit his second gear that everybody already knows he has doesn't mean his supporting cast is going to pull their weight. Just like you saw in Game 1 how Kyle Lowry put up a goose egg. He got 0 points and left Kawhi just standing there by himself balling. So that doesn't, just because Kawhi hits that second gear that everybody already knows he has, doesn't mean that they're going to be okay. That doesn't mean at all. It was proven in Game 1. So let's keep going.
it goes back to why did you make the move? Why did you get rid of DeMar DeRozan? You got rid of him because you felt like you had the potential to get a top 5 quality player in the NBA when he's right.
So it's to my understanding, you may have to go back and look, that they had to get rid of DeRozan in order to sign Kawhi Leonard. And I would easily take Kawhi Leonard over DeRozan, even though DeRozan is a baller. But it is what it is. I would just take Kawhi Leonard for the very reasons of what he did in Game 2 and Game 1 of the playoffs this year. So, I don't know. Let's keep going.
Kawhi Leonard was right. He has that other gear. He also has that experience, which therefore means that he can take some of that pressure off of other guys. And I think we saw a little bit of that last night with Kyle Lowry, who was atrocious in Game 1 and what seemingly was a little bit more free in Game 2. Now,
so to say that Kyle Lowry's performance in Game 1 was atrocious is there's no words for what he did. I mean, you're supposed to be running the point. You're supposed to be the point guard of your team. You're supposed to be the field general, and you can't put up any points in the playoffs of Game 1, and you know how important that is? There's just no excuse to that. And you don't get praise for coming back in Game 2 and putting up 22 points. So his career average is 14, 9, and 5. So Game 2, he put up 22 points. So that's a little bit higher than his career average. And Kyle Lowry's playoff averages is 11, 7, and 5. So he, even in his playoffs average, he went higher with the 22 points. But is that him? Is that going to be consistent with him? Or is he just trying to save face and come back and have a good game? So it's like Kawhi Leonard doesn't know where his consistency is going to be. Is this you just trying to come back, or are you going to be getting 0 points again? Can I trust you? That's the problem that Kawhi Leonard has, and that's the problem with Kyle Lowry. I mean, it's going to be one extreme or the other that is just you can't be counted on. You can't be counted on. So let's keep going.
That carryover Game 3, that'll be the big test because you have to see consistency in that. We haven't seen this kind of efficiency from Kyle Lowry in any playoff series.
And with so
Exactly. Like I said, Kyle Lowry's playoffs average is 11, 7, and 5, and that's just not going to cut it. Kawhi Leonard has his second gear, but he can only do so much. Well, last game he put up 37 points. I mean, he can only do so much. And like I said, Kyle Lowry, he may have just been trying to save face and had a good game because he put up a goose egg in the first one. So you can't trust that he's going to be up there night in and night out and help you in the playoffs to make a deep run, a deep push. So I don't know. Let's keep going.
weird is that the Toronto Raptors have had success in the postseason. Like, do you understand if you lose Game 1, like your chances of winning the series decrease, but they always battle back. So I'll give that compliment to Kyle Lowry. I'm not focused on your Game 1, but seriously, at some
Mr. Jefferson, I'm very focused on Game 1. Like I said, you're supposed to be the point guard. You're supposed to be the court general, and you put up a goose egg. You can't get any points. Like I said, I can probably get the number one high school player, and probably get 1 or 2 points in the NBA. Maybe that could be pushing it. But I mean, to put up 0 points, that means you can't be trusted. I don't care what you did in Game 2. That is unacceptable that in the playoffs, you get 0 points in Game 1. If I was Kawhi, I would be pissed. I mean, are you kidding me? I'd be pissed. So let's keep going.
Point in time, you have to recognize that their team is going to be flawed moving forward, mainly because there's that big gap there with Kyle.
Jalen, as we watch Toronto play with with Leonard, obviously there's so much intrigue here because he will be one of the primary people making a decision this summer. Do you get a sense that how he played last night, how Lowry played last night, the way they looked so good last night, does that factor in, do you think, to his thinking?
Play with desperation, and I do think it factors into his thinking because if you're the Toronto Raptors and you lose in the first round to Orlando and Kyle Lowry plays like crap and the team has him under contract for 3 more years, you leaving.
Exactly, Jalen. I mean, all that points to is that Kawhi Leonard should go someplace else. Because if my backup, my point guard on my team puts up a goose egg in the first game, and then in the second game he gets 22 points, which is high for his average, but can I trust you to stay consistent? Because you know what you're getting with Lowry. Now, if Kawhi Leonard were to go someplace else, say the Clippers, which most people are talking about him going back to LA, he can. I'm pretty sure that he can pick up somebody else, another superstar that I play with them, that he can pretty much depend on that they're not going to put up a goose egg in game 1 of the playoffs, like what Kyle Lowry did. I mean, so blame Kyle Lowry. Like, I don't have a problem with Toronto. I don't have a problem with Canada or anything like that. I don't care if this happened at any place, at any team. The fact that Kyle Lowry is going to put up a goose egg in game 1, and then in game 2 put up 22, which is a lot, but I expect a little bit more, even though it's above his average. If I was Kawhi Leonard, I'm like, no, that's not acceptable. I can easily go someplace else and depend on somebody else that could be my right-hand man, let alone be my point guard and put up a goose egg and stay inconsistent. So I don't know. Let's just keep going.
This is a point guard driven league, and that's his point guard. He's a perennial all-star. He had 0 points. So game 2 was all about him responding, and I agree with you. Kawhi was terrific, taking it to the next level and being really efficient. This guy's unstoppable when he get going.
Listen, you can say what you want about the dealing of DeMar DeRozan and whether it was handled perfectly or not. I can't speak to that. I wasn't in the room. But I respect someone for saying we're...
So just another quick note. So it might not be so bad for Kawhi Leonard. He might consider staying or, something along those lines. If Kyle Lowry wasn't signed for 3 more years, that's a problem because that's telling you what you're going to get. And he's running the point too. So, I mean, who else are you really going to bring in to Toronto? I mean, there are other people, but I don't know. That's just too much of a risk when Kawhi can easily go someplace else and get somebody, a better point guard than Lowry, playing with him. That you can easily, for one thing, we have a higher playoff average, for one. For 2, guaranteed he won't put up a goose egg, 0 points in game 1 of the playoffs when you know that's one of the most important ways to get your momentum going in the playoffs. So I just think that, like I said, everything looks bad for Kyle Lowry. For game 1, he has 3 more years signed on his contract. I mean, Kawhi needs some help. He has a second year, but he can only do so much. So I don't know. Let's keep going.
Good, but we can become great. We can make a daring move and improve our team. That was the first thing you said to me in the meeting.